Have you ever considered how inflation, the general increase in prices and fall in the purchasing value of money, impacts the daily lives of our first responders? Inflation is a subtle yet pervasive force, like a slow tide eroding the coast. It's the process by which your dollar today buys less than it did yesterday, a quiet thief silently diminishing your purchasing power. It's a concept we're all familiar with, but have you ever stopped to wonder how it impacts those who safeguard our communities? When we think of inflation, we often imagine its effects on large-scale economic structures, or how it might impact our personal bank accounts. Rarely do we consider its impact on our first responders, firefighters, paramedics, and police officers. These everyday heroes, who risk their lives for our safety, are not immune to the economic realities of life. Inflation doesn't discriminate. It affects everyone, including our everyday heroes, the first responders. Meet John, a firefighter in a mid-sized city, struggling to make ends meet despite his crucial role in his community. Firefighting is more than a job for John, it's a calling. His days are filled with danger and uncertainty, yet he never hesitates to put his life on the line to save others. But when he hangs up his helmet at the end of the day, a different kind of challenge awaits him: the rising cost of living. You see, John's wage, like many first responders, has not kept pace with inflation. As the value of money decreases, the price of goods and services increases. That's inflation. For John, this means his paycheck buys less and less each year. It's like running up a down escalator. No matter how hard he works, it's a struggle to stay in the same place. Take housing, for example. John's rent has gone up by 15% in the last 2 years. The price of his weekly groceries has jumped by 20%. And the cost of fuel? That has increased by a whopping 30%. John tightens his belt, cuts back where he can, but there are only so many corners you can cut before you start cutting into your life. John is finding it harder and harder to fulfill his basic needs, let alone save for the future or enjoy the fruits of his hard work. His wage, which once seemed fair, is increasingly insufficient in the face of these rising costs. And remember, John's situation is not an isolated case. He's representative of countless first responders across our nation: the police officers, the paramedics, the emergency medical technicians, who are feeling the financial squeeze. They are our everyday heroes, and yet they are struggling to keep their heads above water in this rising tide of inflation. John's story is not unique. Across the country, first responders are feeling the pinch as their wages fail to keep up with inflation. The struggles of first responders like John raise important questions about the economic health of our society. It's not just about one firefighter grappling with the rising cost of living, it's about the larger picture, where inflation is steadily eating into the real value of the wages earned by these everyday heroes. Across the board, police officers, paramedics, firefighters, they're all feeling the pinch. Now, imagine a society where our first responders are too busy worrying about their grocery bills to fully focus on their life-saving duties. That's a scenario none of us want. Our communities depend on these brave individuals, and it's crucial that we ensure their financial security. Inflation isn't just some abstract economic concept discussed in boardrooms or university lecture halls. It's a tangible reality, a daily battle for those who put their lives on the line for us. Inflation is more than just an economic term. It's a reality that's hitting home for our first responders. Today, we've explored the unseen impact of inflation on first responders, using the story of firefighter John. We've underscored how inflation exacerbates the financial strains that these brave individuals face daily. From the rising costs of living to the challenges of maintaining their equipment, inflation is not just a distant economic concept. It's a real concern that directly affects our first responders. As we move forward, it's crucial to consider how economic trends like inflation impact those who keep our communities safe.